mean, the Electoral Commission came up with a roadmap and they're saying we are going ahead with elections, and this has rubbed some people wrong, and many of them are not satisfied with what has since been described as an electronic voting or scientific election. Let's talk to Joseph Kabuleta, a person who has gone to court. Joseph, thanks for joining us on our coverage today. Social distancing still remains critical here amidst the coronavirus pandemic. But Joseph, talk to us about why you went to court.
I went to court because I felt it wouldn't be an election. And it's nice to see all that you've planned for the coverage of the election. I wish the election was as thorough as the coverage of it. Unfortunately, the coverage is going to be a lot better than the election, because it's not going to be an election. It cannot be an election. It violates the rights of people to meet up with the people they are voting, and also the rights of the voters to meet up with their candidates. And that's supposed to be very, very, very basic. And there isn't any premise for something like that. Because if we benchmark, we know very well that there are countries which are holding elections in 2020 in Africa, which have had full-blown campaigns. And they have gone ahead to hold elections, and there have been successful elections with full-blown campaigns. So I believe the so-called scientific election is an attempt by the incumbents to basically kill the will of the people. And of course, they know very well they don't have that will. So they shut it out, whoever has the most money to buy for media space and all that, and other things which really have been only for the advantage of the incumbent.
All right, Joseph, what are your prayers to court?
And we're asking court, first of all, in the long run, we are challenging the legitimacy of that election. In the short run, we are looking for an interim order to stop the entire process until all stakeholders have agreed on what is sat down and agreed on something that they can all, subscribe to, and that is fair to everybody and not just the incumbent. Because the Electoral Commission themselves said they went and consulted with candidate Museveni and came up with a roadmap, which everybody else is supposed to bow down and listen to. Now, he's the president, but he's also a candidate. Now, if he is a candidate, like all the other people who are vying for his position, then he has to be subjected to the similar rules. He cannot have,
change the constitution, because he's the head of state, he's an incumbent, and he's protected by the constitution about that.
No, that's why we are going to court, to find that out, because we don't think he is. Why does he have to swear in again after the election? So when did he cease to be president for him to come and swear in again in May if he is re-elected? So there are things in there that are not fair, which we are challenging in court, and I'm absolutely sure we'll get the interim order and stop the entire process. I am absolutely sure of that.
You have asked for an interim order to stop the election from going on?
Yes, we've done that. We've asked for an interim order, and we are sure that we'll get one.
Joseph, let me just ask you, if I gave you State House today, if you were in President Museveni's shoes, Joseph, what would you do, especially amidst the coronavirus pandemic? And elections are coming up. What would you do? Besides just complaining about what's going on, but what is the alternative that you provide if you're the head of state?
There are so many alternatives. First of all, we've got to be very honest that the threat of the coronavirus is waning by the month. That's a fact.
Figures are coming up. Number of cases are rising.
They are rising everywhere, but that doesn't mean that. But actually, countries that actually have had tens of thousands of fatalities are opening up. Very soon, you're going to see people in stadiums, fans in stadiums. There was a campaign rally in America which has had the most number of deaths, 120,000. The incumbent was doing a rally, open air rally. We're having an election in Malawi today, which had open air campaigns today. Now, wait a minute. That election is in 2020, June 23rd. Now, we are using COVID as an excuse to despoil an election that is in 2021.
Do you therefore want to benchmark your argument from Donald Trump, who has been heavily criticized for doing that? Scientists have advised him, and he has gone against that advice, and he's saying he had a rally and the chances of people contracting the virus were actually high. He went against the very advice from scientists.
Now the thing is,
would that really make you a credible president?
Here's the thing. There is science which is supposed to be exact, but then there is the politicization of science which we are seeing here. Because somebody comes and tells you, scientists have said. Now, what if we present a credible scientist who comes and gives an alternative view? Because even in science, there are opinions. The only thing that makes them matter is that somebody who is giving the opinion is somebody credible and who is schooled in science. and in that particular science. So why must it be one particular kind of scientist that is listened to, whoever it is that the president listens to? Number one. So there is a complete politicization, number one, of the coronavirus.
So you have scientists who have an alternative thought from what the scientists that are advising the president
they are there. Oh, they are there. They are there. My point is this. Uganda is not the only one who have scientists. Okay, there are scientists in 5 African nations which are holding elections in 2020. They have scientists too. I wouldn't stand and say ours are, superior and all that. By the way, even if you talk to Donald Trump, you will say he spoke to scientists. So the whole thing about science, there's a whole politicization of it. It's supposed to be exact, but it is not in the current environment. So the reality is that everybody knows this would not be an election. We are all pretending we are going to have an election. We are not. We are just going to have a reinstallation, or what somebody calls elections. Okay, because there is one person, only one person who benefits from the scientific election. Right. He's the one who has had the benefit of moving across the country in so-called, wealth creation campaigns. So he has met the people. He started in 2018. He's the one who has been on TV, taking 3 hours to make 3 announcements. Or the rest of the other time is campaigning. He's the one who is going to hog all the time in the media, and we all know it. And he's the one who already has all the powers of the incumbency. And he's the one who controls the Electoral Commission. And he's the one who is going to be controlling the results that come out to people like you, to the media. So we all know it would not be an election. But of course, because we are schooled in the art of pretense, because we are in Uganda, we are going to sit back and pretend it's an election, and we know what the result is.
Let's listen in from Jotham Taremwa here, who is the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission and some of those allegations. Joseph, thank you. Joseph Kabuleta, thank you for making time to speak with us. Listen, so we have the chairperson